Hey, you guys.
Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome back. So we wanted to talk about another topic that we get asked questions about a lot. And to be honest, as we really work with our sellers, this topic today is crucial.
Right.
It is the difference that can be a 20 to 25% pendulum swing
Right.
of recapping some potential money for our sellers. And so we take a lot of time with this topic today, and so we really want to talk through it. And what we're talking about is
We want to talk about your return on your investment.
Yep.
And of course, I mean, your home, or most people's homes, are their biggest investment. And what we want to do, if you're getting ready to sell your home, we want you to do the upgrades that are the most valuable to you. And
and here's the thing, like we said this on our last video that we talked about staging, right?
Right.
You don't live in a home like
Right.
you sell it, and you don't sell a home like you live in it. And so we find so often that, life is busy and people are busy and you're doing all the things, and a lot of projects get neglected. And some of these are important, like
Yes.
maintenance type things.
Right.
And some of them are just, gosh, if I had the time and the money, I would just blah, 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 whatever.
Right.
And so, but when it comes time to sell, or when people are thinking about selling, that's when they start thinking, okay, I've got equity in my home. I can access that equity, and I can get this home fixed up and ready
Right.
to go.
Right.
And so what we want to do is talk about some of these ideas are great ideas, meaning you'll get a lot of return.
Right.
Some of these ideas are not as important as the general public believes.
Right. Of course, one of the biggest places when you are looking to buy a home is the kitchen. It's the heart of the home. And so what upgrades should you do in order to maximize the profit from the kitchen?
That's right. And well, first of all, if you're thinking about upgrading your kitchen, that is generally a really good place as a whole
Yes.
to do those upgrades. And so if you have really old appliances or they're mismatched colors, if you have laminated countertops and want to think about putting in stone countertops, if your fixtures are brass, if you want to do these things, those get typically a really strong rate of return on that investment.
Right. So just a few things to think about. Quartz right now is a favorite among buyers. And you mentioned like the hardware as far as like the kitchen cabinets or maybe the faucet and stuff, but also the kitchen light.
Yeah,
That's another
that's
big
right.
deal to upgrade if you haven't done that already. So those are all the things that the buyers will be looking for. And when you update, like that is going to bring you a huge return, especially if you do it in the kitchen.
That's right. And we're seeing, at least at the time of this recording, we're
Right.
seeing certain trends like, an accent color painted on the lower cabinets versus the upper cabinets, or we're seeing a fad that we're not seeing as much now, but we did where there were just a few floating shelves in the kitchen. So I would say this, if you're looking at doing some larger renovations, reach out first to, to us, to a designer, just to find out, hey, I'm thinking about doing this because I saw it on a TV show once. Is this still in vogue? Is it still in fashion?
Right. So the second big place, if you're going to spend money on upgrades, it is the bathroom, because nobody wants a gross bathroom.
That's right.
If you've got old caulk or old molding that is really dingy or has been caulked over dozens of times, this is the time to pull all that up and redo it and make it look fresh and clean, because that is going to jump out to the buyers.
No, that's right. And should you, if I'm thinking about different parts of Birmingham, like Bluff Park or some old Hoover or some old Vestavia, should you rip out all of the ceramic tile if it was a 1950s? I would say it depends. Right?
Yeah.
It's not a one size fits all. If the tile is in great shape and the color looks good, then you might not rip it out. You might actually salvage that, and that adds character to your
Right.
home. So again, one of the things that some people should do and others necessarily may not want to.
Right. Another thing is the countertops or the vanity in the bathroom. Again, it depends on what kind of condition it's in. If it has burns from like curling irons and things like that, it's time to upgrade that. And if it's in pretty good shape, then you may want to consider your mirrors. And just updating your mirrors will go a long way in helping that bathroom look more modern than what it was. Again, you also want to look at your light fixtures and your faucets, because they're going to scream the date that the house was built. So you may want to upgrade those.
Yeah, as an example, again, it's a small thing, but it's actually a large thing for people that are looking. If you think about those little bathroom faucets where you have the crystal globes, right? For the hot water and the cold water, that just screams 30 years old,
right?
Or older. And so the other thing I think is interesting, we see from time to time, is when we have a countertop that's actually made of ceramic tile. The mortar between the tiles gets kind of dingy. It's hard to clean, and if you're competing against new construction, again, this kind of the overarching theme of this whole video, if you're competing with new construction, you don't want to necessarily have like a tile countertop, because it's just going to feel so old when it walks in. And you mentioned lighting. I think, again, overarching theme through your entire house. The color of the lighting, the temperature of the bulbs can make such a big difference. So again, if you've got a bathroom, sometimes we see half baths where the lighting is very warm and yellow and cozy. When it comes to selling, it is amazing the difference when you have bright white light. It's just a difference that it makes on the buyers when they see it.
Right, and it just helps the buyer to be able to see like what's in the room. Because if it's so dark, I mean, it kind of can feel dirty, just because they can't see well enough with the lighting in the room. So that's another big factor to think about when you are, upgrading and making sure that your temperatures match and throughout the whole house, not just
not just the one room,
within the one room, but also throughout the rest of the house.
And then there's also the shower doors. Oh my gosh! I mean, not only are they dated as brass shower and the clouded glass alongside of that, but there's so much grime that gets in, mold growth that gets in those, and there's almost nothing you can do besides get rid of that and either put up shower curtain or put a new glass shower door or something like that in. Again, individual case, right? Case by case basis, not a blanket overall statement, but just realize that's another big place that can make a difference.
Okay, so if you haven't heard a theme so far, lights are a big deal. So the next one is just painting and lights throughout your home. So we've hit the back. So like if you've got a kind of order of importance, we're talking about kitchen because it brings so much of a return on your investment. Bathrooms would come in next. If those are in pretty good shape, then your next step would be painting. Make sure you paint your home. Even if it's been painted recently, you're still going to have scuff marks. You're going to have handprints. If you have kids, I mean, you can have peanut butter and jelly. So you're going to want to paint just to make it feel fresh and clean and open. And when you're going with paints, it is a-okay to have your favorite colors when you move into your new house. But your favorite colors, as we talked about, last time in the video, may not be everybody's favorite colors. So if you go with a neutral color, you're going to allow the buyer to be able to see themselves in your home. Also, the same thing goes with light fixtures. We're guilty. There is a brass 1990s fixture hanging in our foyer, and we've updated other things, but that thing is still sitting there. And when you walk in,
its days are numbered.
It is, but when you walk in, you're like, oh my gosh, that is so 1990s. And what you don't want is your buyer walking in and saying that about your house. So, if you need to work on just some specific pieces, make sure that you work on the lighting, especially like when you walk in the house, over your dining room table, in the kitchen, in the bathrooms. Those are your biggest. Of course, if you can, and they're all needing updated, that's great. But if you have to focus on some key pieces, those would be your key pieces.
Yeah, those are huge returns on investment for those, and it's not an enormous amount of cost. You don't have to purchase the most expensive fixtures. You can get some inexpensive fixtures, but it can make a big difference in the feel of your home when the buyer walks in. Remember, the whole goal, I should say, is to broaden the pool of potential buyers to make it attractive for more people.
Right. So I'm glad you brought that up, because another thing to think about when you are picking out fixtures for your home is make sure the fixture actually matches the style and the price point of the home. Like if it was something very fancy like what you would see in the White House, that's probably not what you want to see in our house because it just wouldn't match. It doesn't go. And also, if you have a more elaborate, very fancy home, you don't really want to go basic because it won't match the home. So again, that's one of those things that if you don't know, then that's something to reach out to us about and ask questions. And sometimes that's on, we'll decide on a case-by-case basis, do you need to add that particular fixture or use something different. All right, the next thing when you are preparing your home that's going to actually bring in money in your pocket is curb appeal. Because when people pull up, like, it's the first impression of the home, and if it's looking rough, sometimes they won't even walk in. So you want to attract your buyer and draw them in.
Here's the mentality of the buyer. If they walk around the house on the outside or the inside and they see obvious things that have not been taken care of, and I mean little things like fresh mulch versus old mulch from last year, they will assume that nothing has been cared for, right?
Right.
And so what we tell our sellers when we're putting the plan together for them is that we want to win the buyer when they first see the house online. We win it online first, we win it on social media, then we win it at the curb, and then we win it in the kitchen. All right, so having that, you mentioned fresh mulch and landscaping. Again, if you're naturally outdoors and you have a green thumb, you might be able to do a lot of the work yourself. If you need to hire it out, it is almost always a great investment to put fresh pine straw down, to trim back and cut back some of the overgrowth. And for as much as whether you're doing it yourself or hiring it done, pulling weeds out of the flower bed, just cleaning it up can make such a big difference.
Not only that, pressure washing.
Oh my gosh,
pressure washing goes a long way. We're talking about the driveways and the sidewalks, but also if you have stains and stuff on the sides of your walls, like, you want to have that done, because again, it just screams to the buyer they didn't care enough to take care of this. So what else have they not taken care of?
Well, and vinyl siding, for example, it's a great siding. It's low maintenance, but before you sell your home, you do want to have that cleaned appropriately, because I mean, if you walk up and on the north side or the east side of your home, there you can see that green moldy. It just gives an icky feeling. I don't know how to spell icky, but you know what I mean. Like, it just makes the buyer feel icky. And so a little bit of prep with the driveways, like you said, the side of the house or the back deck, especially if you have trees, it can tend to be a little bit worse. It can just, it can make a big difference. We recently had a client that have trees over the home, and they went the extra mile. They paid a pretty good sum of money for their metal roof to have it cleaned and repainted. And I tell you, the house went under contract and within the first 2 days that it was on the market. And so those things can matter because it makes the buyer feel good. Right.
And then there's kind of some things that maybe you are accustomed to living in and you just don't think about. But if you have dog houses or kennels out in the yard or toys for the kids, again, it's just the perception of the buyer. If you can straighten those things up or pull some of the things inside so that the house itself just kind of stands out and they're not seeing extra things around it, that will make the buyer more interested in coming inside to see what's inside.
That's right. And it can be as simple as moving the garbage cans out of the way so the buyer doesn't see them at first glance. Of course, they expect to see garbage cans, but if they see them at the back of the house versus when they first pull up, basketball goals, right? It's just another thing that if you could move it, it would have a positive impact.
Right. So those are really easy things that, again, will make a huge impact on buyers looking at your home.
And so, again, in line with this, the plan or the content for today, front doors. Front doors are another place, kind of like your kitchen, your bathroom. Should you replace it? Should you not? It depends. But it can make a huge difference. The front doors and the lights beside the front doors can make a big difference on that first impression of your home.
So, again, working with your realtor to figure out what is the best thing for you. Flooring would come in next at one of the biggest things that makes the biggest difference when buyers walk in the house.
Sometimes you've got, traditionally I would say, you've got maybe some rooms with hardwood, natural real hardwood, and then you've got some rooms with carpeting. And so what happens a lot of times is, instead of putting back carpeting, one of the trends today is to put down an LVP, but nobody can bear the thought of putting LVP over the hardwoods.
Right.
And so what you're left with is a flooring that doesn't match.
Right. In
the mind of the buyers, and we see this all the time, it stands out, right?
It does, yeah. And that's the thing, is like, mismatched flooring or flooring that's in really bad shape. Again, it just, think about the mindset of the buyer. They think that the house is going to fall apart because the floors weren't taken care of. It may not be true, but that's their perception. So if you have the ability to go back and if you've got frayed carpet, like maybe where animals have scratched on it and that kind of thing, replace the carpet or put LVP down. But you're going to have to watch out for it butting up against your hardwoods, because they're not going to match, and the buyers are going to look at that as a negative thing.
Yeah, I mean, if again we're talking about return on investment,
right?
So the cost of putting carpet down the week before you go onto the market is so much less than putting an LVP down, and I think it would present better if you have carpet in bedrooms and hardwoods outside. That's kind of an okay match.
Right.
It's just when you have hardwoods on one floor and in the next room where the threshold butts up against, and it's a totally different look for wood. It does not make sense.
Right. Right. So again, those are some things, design questions that you would want to ask your realtor to find out, like, what is the best scenario for my particular house and what's going on in it. So those are some things that are going to actually put money back. Although you're going to have to spend money up front, it will put money back in your pocket. But there are some things that just aren't necessary.
Right.
Right. And so some of those things may be like simple, like, should I go ahead?
I was going to say, well, people sometimes will ask me, hey, I've got a back deck. Should I go through the expense of enclosing that back deck with a roof and make it a screened-in porch or a sunroom? And I would say, I mean, if you want to do that, feel free, but that change is not necessarily going to bring the return that taking that same amount of money and updating the kitchen or the bath with, right?
So, okay, so some other things might be, should I enclose my basement and create another bedroom?
Yeah.
Well, again, that depends. Like, is it going to be a 6x6 bedroom? Nobody wants that. or
is it going to be a bedroom with no bath downstairs? Right. In other words, sometimes if you don't do it right, it's probably better not to do it at all.
Right.
That's another one. Or some people will say, hey, I've got a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. What if I just build on another bedroom at the end of the hall and we'll make it a 4-bedroom? And I would say, it depends.
Right.
We said that a lot today because it does depend.
It does.
But I mean, in some cases that may make sense.
Right.
But in a lot of cases, not necessarily. If you can't make it match the rest of the house, if it doesn't make sense.
Right. So that's the key point. And we've given you guys a lot of tips on how to upgrade, but specifically as consultants to our sellers, our goal is to go in and look at your house specifically, to look at each room specifically and help you and guide you through what should be upgraded, what shouldn't be upgraded. Should I put fixtures here or should I put them there? Like, that's the point of sitting down and having a consultation with our sellers.
That's right. It's very much a customized, a tailored plan for you, because every house is different and every house is special. What we love to do is take a little time to study it. And that's the other thing, as we sit down together, like, it is not a 10-minute process to walk through and say this. Like, we actually stop and think about it from a style standpoint, staging standpoint, and even a financial standpoint. So the thing that we love is guiding our sellers through the process of determining what investment they want to make in the home to get it ready, and watching them get a return on that investment.
Yes. So if you have been thinking about selling your home in the Birmingham area, we would love to help. So reach out to us. We would love to connect. If you have any questions about existing homes in Birmingham, we would be happy to help you with those as well.
So we are Mike and Brandy Brown with Keller Williams Realty, Birmingham, Alabama. Feel free to call us or text us 205-368-5995 or email info@mbrownrealty.com.